Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the Long Tom mobile artillery piece. Now, the mobile Long Tom was essentially an artillery piece on wheels known in official Star League records as the LTMOB 25. This is actually a six wheels all hooked together as part of a massive convoy. This combat vehicle was first produced by the Star League Defense Force and design soon became common in every military throughout the Ionosphere and periphery. The main unit was a 65-ton tracked vehicle and the only one in the convoy that possessed an admittedly meager engine capable of only 25.6 kilometers an hour and required constant refueling. The pilot cab also served as a targeting center, featuring an additional ton of communications equipment and the mounted weaponry. However, the vehicle was protected by only a scant 4 tons of armor, though it was not supposed to be anywhere near the combat line. For this reason, a long Tom relied on defensive units for anti-air support. Included in the artillery system was a pair of 5-ton support carriages. The purpose of these was to carry support personnel who directed the fire of the Long Tom. Finally, three 10-ton ammunition carriages were also towed around and carried enough ammunition to supply just over 4 minutes of continuous fire. All four were protected by just 2 tons of armor each, and the weight of the full convoy meant the mobile Long Tom could not travel cross country due to the very real threat of becoming stuck. For this reason, its travel was restricted to heavy roads. Weapons and equipment. The purpose of this entire convoy of vehicles was to move one weapon, the Armstrong Industries Long Tom Rifle Mobile Chassis System. The artillery piece was capable of extremely long range fire for suited or more suited for demolishing defensive fortifications than firing into a firefight. The only short range weapons were four side mounted Sperry Browning machine guns. They were more than suited for anti infantry than anti mech duty. Now, we do have a couple variants. The 25F, this is from 2695, built on a 65-ton chassis. The 25S is faster than its predecessor. The ferrofibrous armor and case provide equivalent protection despite the reduced mass, though limited ammunition reserves and no extra communication equipment with the tractor itself leaves the 25F unable to perform any sort of extended fire support mission without a full complement of trailers. Now we have the 50. This variant was only different from the 25 in that it was much rarer and used rails to travel faster. Due to the limited nature of the rail travel, comparatively few of these were ever produced. This variant has a crew of 25 and is virtually unarmored. Now we have the 95 introduced by the Federated Suns. This variant combines all weapons, ammo, and control systems in a single track chassis. There is a Dark Age dossier variant. During the post jihad years, a more compact version of the mobile Long Tom, known simply as the Long Tom artillery, was created. This combat vehicle retains the same tonnage and weaponry of the original, but is no longer configured in a wagon train like fashion. Instead, it is a single combat vehicle which was first produced by the Federated Suns and later by other powers, including the compelling Confederation. Let's see, notes. Author Blaine Lee Pardreau stated in a blog entry that, according to his memory, which he admitted could be wrong, the mobile Long Tom was among the vehicles for which he invented the name and wrote the original background as initially published in the 3025 uh, records book. After being given only its art and game stat to work with for the entry. The combat vehicle was redesigned following the publication of Total Warfare and Tech Manual. The stats presented by the Tech Readout in 3039 differ somewhat from those of the Tech Readout 3025 revised. Now, we have three pictures here. So, the original one, which does show the whole train system, and this is done by Dwayne Luce. And then we have another one, which is still that train system altogether. And this one is done by Alan Blackwell. And last but not least, all together, so this would be the latest variant of this. And unfortunately, it's missing the artist to be able to give them the recognition that they deserve. All right. So, not a lot of variants of this, but it does make a lot of sense. Now, being on Sarna.net, they do note that there is an update that is needed, which is why I always go to them because as much as I love Battletech, after the Jihad and everything else, I kind of started not picking up all the extra tech manuals and following it as closely as I used to. Uh, the nice thing here is they usually have all that information. So it looks like there is a ill clan version of this that should be added to it. I don't have what that version or variant is, so please bear with me on that one. What I do have is a quick kind of hashed out stats. Seeing that there really is not a lot of weaponry on here, it's only two different types of guns. It wasn't all that hard, but just trying to make sure I had it on here. So let's get into our stats. All right, so let's take a look at what we have here. So this is, as always, at Walker scale. Now, the total tonnage is going to be 95, but like it was stated in Sarna.net, the actual long tom itself is at 65 tons. With that in mind, the body strength, I put it at a 5D. When I'm going by the actual tonnage, when I started off with 95, it took it up to a 7D. But with it only being actually 65 tons, that brings it down to a 5D. Now, if we talk about the whole unit in all, then it would be probably a 7D, but it is not really as heavily armed or armored, that is, um, as we would see with a lot of other vehicles, and it only has 64 armor points. So just kind of keeping it in that perspective. Now, it does have a crew of 15. There's no passengers being listed here. This does come at a cost of 1,722,275 C-bills. So if you just pull out your wallet and just pay for one, I'm sure that's fairly easy. We do have a cargo capacity of 50 or 500 kilograms. This is a holdover from the last vehicle I was working on. I really don't know what to put onto this, being a heavy tracked vehicle. There is no extra cargo capacity or anything else, but the fact that it is a big artillery piece with cargo units being dragged behind it, it just is what it is. Of course, we're going to have our full coverage. It's going to be ground altitude. The maneuverability, doing how I've been doing it, looking at 95 tons in all, has a maneuverability 2D plus 2. Now, honestly, thinking about it, why don't we just knock that down to about maybe a 0D plus 2? This thing is not going to be very maneuverable whatsoever. So I'm just going to purposely knock it way down because it has a hard time just maneuvering around. Plus, you have this nice big wagon train, so you're just going to be able to pick this thing off without much of an issue. We have a movement of 25.6 kilometers per hour. That's at its fastest speed, which is really a moving 3 hexes and going from there. We already covered the body strength and the weapons. So we have the long tom, which I had to kind of look through things because I never put the long tom on my list of weapons to have here. And of course, here I'm looking at the long tom. Now, the long tom does the same amount of damage at range as our AC-20. So that kind of worked out. So we're doing 10D damage. Um, has 50 reloads because of the system behind it, the carriages behind it. Fire control, I still have at a 2D. This is at Walker scale. Now, the range is fun because it goes out to 20 to 30 maps. So I'm going to say maybe 60 kilometers plus more. You know, how I'm trying to remember exactly how big a map is, and depending on which way you're measuring that map, are you going the long way or the shorter, narrower width? So I'll leave that up to your own imagination. Now we do have 4 machine guns. These are at Walker scale. These are going to be independent. There's 2 on each side. They're side turrets. Um, let's put left and right side, which I forgot to put in. Um, all right, left and right side turrets. So this is going to help in case there's an enemy incursion. We have infantry trying to gang rush the whole unit to try and take it over. But that's really all we're going to get out of it. It's going to have a fire control of 2D, damage is 2D, and we're going to have about 200 reloads here. Not a lot, but there again, this is a rear base, rear line kind of offensive weapon. So something massive to have out there, something to try and wear away the walls and all that we see from, especially some of the video games where we show the mechs coming out of a walled city or whatever, trying to keep everything fortified. It's amazing how when we look at the future and the mechs and the warfare that we've gone back to having walled cities after having all these nice big open cities that we are pleasantly available of having today. And even in today's day and age, when we look back at more medieval cities and all that, where the cities themselves may have the old original walled city, but it has sprawled out so much more that it's the walled part is the very inner city. So, and we just kind of go from there. With that being said, thank you for stopping by. It's always wonderful having you here. Hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.